Today is going to be fantastic. We're going to talk to someone who is just getting started in looking at commercial real estate. I don't know if they've ever done anything. I just met them a couple days ago and they asked some really interesting questions. So I thought, hey, let's hop on Zoom, have an interview, talk about this with this new person and see where it goes. So you're along for the ride. We're going to have a lot of fun. And with that, Jennifer Meadows, welcome to our show. How's that sound?
Hey, Chris, thank you for taking some time to speak with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Jennifer. So where are you? A little bit about your background as it relates to why you think you might be a good match for commercial real estate, and what are your dreams?
Sure. So I originally started as a residential real estate agent 30 years ago.
30 years ago. Wow.
30 years ago, having my son around. Um, then I took a break from doing sales and helped my husband and with a family business. We have a manufacturing company. So I went into manufacturing. Also, we did property investments, property management. So I had about 18 years in different fields doing that. I decided I had this license sitting around, so I started it back into residential real estate. But as I was doing residential real estate, I realized that I had a really good background in commercial, understanding the terminology. So I decided that's something I want to really look into pursuing.
Wonderful. Now, where are you located?
So I am in Salisbury, Mass,
In
but our
Salisbury, Massachusetts,
Massachusetts,
near Beantown.
we are, yeah, Beantown. We also have our business in Florida, so we're kind of, I jump back and forth, up and down the East Coast.
Well, hopefully you spend more time in Florida so you are taxed as a Florida resident, not a Massachusetts medicine resident.
I also live in New Hampshire too, so I'm all over the place.
Oh, another tax-free state. Wow, that's exciting. Cool. What kind of manufacturing?
Pipe fittings. So it's a company that goes back to 1901, and we make all kinds of pipe fittings. Goes on steam pipes, um, oil lines, trains. It's really kind of a cool company.
1901, over 122 years. That's crazy.
It is. It's exciting. It's exciting to
Yeah.
be
So your
part of.
dad, is it your husband's business that he inherited, or
Exactly. Yeah. And his
so?
father had bought it. He worked there. Like the whole family worked there. His father bought it. He inherited it. I worked there. My kids worked there. Everybody's worked there.
So like 17th generation.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so this is really good because a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Hey, Chris, I want to jump into commercial real estate." And I'm like, "What's your background?" Well, I was a lifeguard. A
Okay.
lifeguard. Okay, cool. I mean, saving lives, I love it, but what does that have to do with commercial real estate? You know, a lot of people have backgrounds that just don't have any bearing on commercial real estate. They want to get into commercial real estate. And so one of the things that I really like about what you said is you have a background in manufacturing, industrial real estate. And so, you know, depending on what all you did with the company, how big the company is, you know, do you guys own or lease your real estate? You know, there's a lot of background that you could have. So, in fact, in my background, I did a hostile takeover. Okay. And so back in 1998, so I'm when you were toting your kid around doing real estate, I was toting my kid around actually doing I was a certified financial planner, a stockbroker at a tax practice, wrote some books, kind of fun stuff. By the way, everyone, my name is Chris Vogt. I am your professional connector and I'm a commercial real estate advisor. I was a business broker, but I do business advising, so I don't do brokerage anymore, but I have a team of business brokers if anyone's interested. So anyhow, 1998, someone came to me and they're like, "Hey, Chris, got a problem at the company. There's one of the owners. Can you help me?" So we did a year of forensic accounting. And at the end of the year, we put together a team and we walked in the front door of the company on a Monday afternoon at 4:45, just before closing, accompanied by two plainclothes police officers carrying handcuffs and handguns. And the next morning, I was introduced to the staff as the new CFO, COO. And one of the things that I got to do is I got to manage the commercial real estate portfolio. We had over 50,000 square feet of logistics, warehousing with a little bit of office, had a manufacturing plant that was over 30,000 square feet that had some office space in it. And so I got a really good mix of different property types that I was personally responsible for. And so that has really helped. And before that, I grew up in a family that was involved in commercial real estate. And so I rolled around with my dad when I was a kid, listening to him negotiate buying, leasing, and selling commercial real estate. So that's a really good background when you come from a family business and you're getting hands-on experience. So I love that about your story. And so what do you want to do well, first of all, before I want to say, what do you want to do? What have you done as an agent with commercial real estate so far?
So far, I'm just getting my feet wet again. Um,
So when
I've
you
been
say just again, you mean like 20 minutes ago? Like, this is my first call, Chris.
well, I actually have a client that I'm working with for in New Hampshire, buying different, pretty much a water company, and then quickly cramming in getting a New York license because we have a big project going on in New York. I need to quickly get licensed so I can help over there too. So I have one client, some really big commercial deals coming up.
Cool. I love it. Now, you said something that's really important that I want to touch on because I'm surprised sometimes when people don't know this. Okay. And um, I don't know if you're with a residential company right now or a commercial brokerage, or if you are with a company that does mainly residential and they also do some commercial. Do you sell homes now?
Trying.
Okay.
It's an interesting market right now.
It
Yes.
is an interesting market. Okay. Because some brokerages, they actually say that you can sell homes, you can sell commercial real estate, but you can't sell a business. And
Right.
so that'll be something that you mentioned you're helping a client buy a business. And so that's something you want to be really careful of. So, for example, a couple months ago, I was with a brokerage where I was a business broker, and they had a specific program where you became a member. I'm in California, so I became a member of the California Association of Business Brokers and also a member of the International Business Brokers Association. And then I had to go through a mentoring program and was vetted so that I could be a business broker and covered by the company's errors and emissions insurance, okay, through their risk management program. And so if you're listening to this and you're with a residential company, before you start getting engaged in business opportunities, buying or selling a business, be sure that you check with your broker and that it's okay. Because I find a lot of people, they just say, well, I'm licensed to do it. It's okay, right? And I'm like, not necessarily. Check with your broker, make sure you've got good E&O coverage. All right. So hopefully you don't mind that little aside there.
No, love it. Actually, that's some of the inquiries I'm trying to make into stepping into the commercial field is what kind of educations I need to get, certifications. And I want to just put a clarifier. I'm not helping them buy a water company. They're actually already own the water company. They're converting the lands into residential homes. So it's going to be like conversions. So not buying the water company. It's just a
Okay.
water I'm working with.
All right. So hopefully, I didn't misunderstand what you were saying,
Yeah.
but I'm glad we got that straight. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, but as far as commercial experience, do you have any experience going back besides working with your family business in commercial real estate? Apart from what you already told us about.
Yeah.
Is,
So we, as a, when I was in Florida, personally, like as a family, we did real estate investment. So we purchased and I managed 15 residential homes, tenants. So we had actually a company in Florida that I was in charge of looking for properties, buying properties, getting tenants, screening tenants, and all of that goes with
cool. Okay. Um, So one of the things that a lot of people come, they're like, hey, Chris, what should I do in commercial real estate? I'm new. I've got a little bit of experience in industrial in your case. I got some experience in residential rentals, so maybe I should do multifamily. I really like going to the mall. I'm kind of interested in doing retail, retail therapy, yay. Um, and there's a lot of different things. And when people first start, what I tell people is I say, hey, look, Jennifer, how many clients are in your database? I mean, maybe you've got 500 contacts of people that you're actively, um, prospecting, them, you maybe bought or sold something for them in the past, or they've expressed an interest. And so you're working this sphere of influence, right? And so the first thing that I suggest is that you talk to your sphere anytime you're on the phone with them or whatever, and you say, hey, that I've been helping you with residential real estate for a long time. And because of my background, I don't know if my family business has been around since 1902 or in 1901, whatever it was. And so I've been around commercial stuff. And so I'm now, kind of delving into commercial real estate. And I've got a support network behind me of agents who are working with me. And so if you know anyone who is in the market to buy, lease, or sell commercial real estate, please connect them with me so that myself and my network can support them. Or if you're the person that is looking to buy, lease, or sell commercial real estate, please let me know because I'd love to support you in that.
That's a great note to take.
Yeah. And so the thing is like people come out of the woodwork that you're maybe not expecting. All
Mhm.
right. So they start talking to you and they're like, oh, hey, we're really interested in building a mini storage unit. You know anything about that? You're like, mini storage. Those are really cool. Personally, I don't know, but I've got this great network behind me, and I know 3 or 4 agents that are really big into mini storage. Tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for so that I can find the right partner to work with on this.
So is that a good starting point is for a person looking into commercial to go into like a team, or is it a good recommendation to find a team to work with?
I love that question. So, number one, you're a member of the National Association of Realtors, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're a realtor. And one of the things that is in the code of ethics is it says, well, it doesn't say it like this, it's like King James English, thou shalt not, practice something that you're not familiar with and skilled in, right? And so it's important that you don't violate the code of ethics as a realtor. I've been hanging around my wife too much. She likes to say realtor.
Mhm.
Um, a realtor. And so you want to make sure that you know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, you want to partner with someone. And mentorship is really important. So mentoring works a little differently in commercial real estate than in residential. And like the company that I'm associated with, the mentor program gets 20% mentoring fee, of which half goes to the mentor and half goes to the program. And that's on top of the company split. All right. So, like, you have a deal with $10,000. Maybe the company split is 20%. That leaves 8,000. And then 8,000. I don't know what the mentoring program is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's off the gross. So that would be another 2,000. So that leaves you with 6,000, right? Okay. With commercial real estate, it works a little bit differently in the brokerages that I've been associated with and also the associations I've been associated with. So I was with a commercial brokerage, and at that brokerage, the mentoring program, the official mentoring program, contractually allocated 50% of the transaction to the mentor and 50% to the mentee. And then once the money was split, then the mentor would pay whatever their split was to the company and whatever their fees were. And then the mentee would pay their split and their fees. One of the great things about commercial real estate is sometimes we get some really nice paydays. And so you could have one transaction that totally puts you into capping territory, you know? And so then if you have multiple transactions you're doing as a mentee, which I highly recommend, um, depending on the person, you know, it's usually at least three transactions within a specific area. And we'll go into that in just a second, before you're really ready to go out on your own. And so what I kind of like to tell people is, um, get someone who knows what they're doing. And depending on what you're trying to do, like if you know you're going to do industrial because of your manufacturing background, you want to make sure you have someone who's got some good, solid industrial experience. Now, that doesn't mean that maybe they don't have some retail experience or some other experience, but you want to know that they understand industrial because that's where you think you're going to focus. But when we go back and you look at your sphere and you're talking to your sphere, you never know what they're going to come up with. Okay. And so with new people, I always say, keep your options open, you know, because a lot of people who have been in residential real estate, they're like, oh, I want to go into multifamily because I'm coming out of single family and I understand families, you know, and sometimes that doesn't work really well because everyone and their pet monkey wants to sell multifamily. And, you know, so, but I like to go where there's less competition and, you know, where's less competition where you're at. And part of it's that, and the other part of it is what comes to you. You know, some people say, you know, embrace what the universe brings you, or I like to say embrace what God gives you, right? And so when you start talking to people and people say, hey, I've got a dental office. Oh, well, that's cool. I know a friend and my friend has got some great experience in working with medical dental. That's me. Okay. Even though I came out of a manufacturing logistics background in industry, when I first started, the first referral I got was another agent came to me and said, hey, Chris, you're really good with putting teams together. And I got this lead, this email just came like 10 seconds ago, and they want to open up a series of medical offices in California. You're really good with networking and putting groups of people together that work. So maybe we should do this together. So we ended up over the next like 90 days closing 5 medical offices. And those were the first 5, you know, transactions that I was involved in. Kind of cool, huh?
That's very cool.
Yeah. And I had no idea I was going to be doing anything with medical. And then a couple of years ago, I ended up closing 3 dental deals in a period of like 20 days. And the first deal I'd been working on for like 19 months. It was really long, drawn out. And then another one I'd been working on like for like 3 months. And then one took 22 days from open to close of escrow. So it's just interesting how things go together. So if you look at the number of transactions that I've done more transactions in the medical space than I have in any other space. But I've also had people come to me and say, hey, Chris, you grew up on a farm. I've got someone who wants to sell a farm. Can you help with that? So a few months ago, I sold an almond orchard. And now I've got a listing for selling some great cropland here in California, you know.
So how do
Um,
you get education to like go into different commercial aspects? Like
so
how do you find
that's really good. And if you don't have a background in doing it, it's much more difficult. So I don't know if I look it, but I'm 62 years old and I have like some really crazy life experiences, which have taken me into a lot of different areas so that I'm able to do a lot of things because I have experience in those things. And one of the things that really helped me is after I did the Valley thing, I retired actually when I was 42, 20 years ago. I took some time off to help my kids grow up, you know, spend time so they didn't, you know, learn Cat Stevens, Harry Chapin song, Cats in the Cradle and a
you know
Silver Spoon,
exactly? I know
you know?
that song very well.
Yeah. And so one of the things I did for like some extra money is I did catastrophic insurance adjusting and I did commercial. And so I got a chance to do a lot of different property types And I had a lot of training that taught me about, okay, if you're going into an office building, here's things that you have to look for going into an office building. If you're going into an apartment complex or a condominium complex, here's different things that you have to be aware of there. And so a lot of it really boils down to what are your life experiences? What are you bringing to the table? And if you don't have really good life experiences to help you with that, then you're going to be much more limited in what you're going to be qualified to do. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So
Yeah.
if you were looking for someone to guide you through the, like, let's say you wanted to do dental offices, I now know you are the person to talk to. How do you find like someone who would like what you're interested in to find that person to kind of guide you on that path?
Yeah. So depending on what brokerage you're with, some brokerages have got some really good internal like social platforms. Like where I'm at, we've got something called Workplace, which is like Facebook, but only people who are part of the company get to be involved in them. And so we have, almost 90,000 agents around the world as part of our brokerage. And so I've actually formed some groups within Workplace to network. And so, get involved in the social platforms that you have. Depending on who your brokerage is, you may or may not be able to rely on people outside your brokerage for mentoring or training. Okay. It really depends. This is something that, depending on where you're at, you want to talk to your broker and say, hey, who can I work with? And like now, Jennifer and I, we're both with the same brokerage. And so let's say that you wanted some support with something. What we would do is we would go to your state broker and say, hey, look, here's what I want to do. Chris is doing this. Chris had a multi-state team. When I first launched into commercial, a lot of people were like, hey, Chris, you got this experience that you brought 40 years of commercial experience before you got your real estate license. Can you train me on all this stuff that you know? And so I actually formed a team and we had agents in New York and Florida and Tennessee and Ohio and Kansas and Missouri and Washington and California, all over the place. We had 13 agents across 9 states. And then we had some, turnover too. So we ended up with a couple extra states in there because of that. So find someone that you can relate to, find someone who's knowledgeable, find someone who's willing to strike a fair bargain with you. I mean, like I said, the standard for mentoring is usually a 50-50 split in both the associations I've been involved in and also the brokerages I've been involved in for commercial real estate. So, and
That
by the
makes
way,
sense.
I
That makes a
was
lot of sense.
I was part of the Commercial Brokers Association in California back before the pandemic. I was on the board of governors of the association. I was one of their certified trainers, so I taught the commercial classes on commercial real estate. And I was elected, and I served for my last term there was as the vice chair of the association. And last month, this is September 23, by the way. And so last month in August, I was elected to be the 2024 president of the only commercial association of realtors in the state of California, which is the Realtors Commercial Alliance of Orange County, California. So next year, I'm going to be the president of that association.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Okay.
Like,
So education, let's back up and talk about education a little bit. So there's one great big huge designation that has like a lot of weight in the industry. That's the CCIM. And the CCIM is actually affiliated with NAR, the National Association of Realtors. And I'm at this age where I don't feel like going out and getting more designations. So I'm probably not going to do that because I don't think I'm going to be around long enough, you know, active to a degree that I want to go get that designation. Okay. And then there's some other little designations that are out there. And some of them have more credibility than others, let's just say, okay? And so, sometimes a brokerage will offer some classes, they'll offer a certification. Sometimes those certifications, they're worth almost as much as the paper they're printed on. And sometimes they're actually pretty good. And what I recommend you do is get the commercial training you can. that's affordable. And don't let someone rip you off. There's a lot of people out there is like, hey, for $20,000, you can be part of my group class and I'll see you once a month or something. And if they don't do anything and you don't sell any real estate, then that's not going to do you any good. Other times there may be $20,000 they see you once a month, but they also help you get deals across the line and they give you that little bit of extra that you need, and it can be absolutely worthwhile. And so I don't want to denigrate any specific programs or boost any specific programs because they all change over time. But there's a lot of programs out there, and some of them are worth their weight in gold, and others are worth their weight in feathers.
Yeah, that's good to know. So from my understanding, as soon as you have your real estate license, you technically have the ability to do either residential or commercial. Is that correct?
Ah, so as far as I know, now I'm only familiar with California law basically because I'm in California. That's where I'm licensed. That's where I took the test. In California, once you take the test, you are licensed for commercial and residential. But I think we all know the day you get your license, you're qualified to do nothing. You know, I mean, if you don't have any experience, if you don't understand the contracts, if you don't understand the subtleties of how the system works, you really shouldn't be doing anything until you go through some sort of a mentoring program and a training program.
Yes.
And so there's a big difference between licensing and being qualified. And some people are coming and they're like, hey, Chris, so, okay, the standard at our residential brokerage is you do 3 transactions and you graduate from the mentoring program. Okay, that's good. So in commercial real estate, if you do 3 transactions, you may not be really qualified for much of anything because let's go back to your residential roots. Let's say that your first transaction is a mobile home and it went for $60,000, at the trailer park. That may not qualify you to sell a $1.5 million luxury home, right? Yeah. And then your second transaction is you helped someone who needed to rent an apartment and you made a whole $374, but it was a transaction. And so usually most of the mentoring programs, they say that they're going to review your actual expertise before they'll let you graduate. So it's typically 3 transactions, but it may be more or less depending on what you did. So in commercial real estate, there's a big difference between leasing and listing and being a buyer's agent for buying something. Okay. Now the buyers and the listing agent, they're closer aligned, but the difference between leasing and sales is really big. And then you've got the different segments of commercial real estate. So I mentioned agriculture earlier, right? And we mentioned industrial, we mentioned office, which includes medical, dental. Just because you've sold an office before doesn't mean you should touch a medical dental. All right. So what I didn't say earlier, one of the reasons why I was doing dental is because while I was retired, I invested in a dental practice and I was working with the dentist and we were working on acquiring dental properties. So I had a background in that and I spent a lot of time and energy understanding what was going on from the buyer's perspective. So when I stepped into the agent's role, I had a really good foundation for that. Make sense?
That makes perfect sense. So
Yeah.
as a new agent coming into commercial, I have 2 backgrounds, one in industrial, since we have family business, and one in property management. Um, it's, I guess trying to fine tune expertise would be, I guess, some good advice is to figure out how to pick which direction to go rather than try to
Well,
be general for everybody.
and the thing is when you're first starting, like I had no idea I was going to do medical, right?
Hmm.
I mean, it came from a referral, and that referral happened to bring 5 transactions with it. All right. But I had a background, I was pre-med in college, so I was able to communicate well with medical people. And a lot of that role that you have as an agent is learning to communicate with people. And so that's part of it. But when you're first starting, look for people to refer you business in anything, and then partner with someone who is an expert, and it'll give you experience in different what we like to call food groups, okay, sections of commercial real estate. But that way you at least understand it, and you can know, hey, I'm really liking this and I didn't expect to. Or, whoa, that was really interesting, but I don't want to touch that again because there's a lot of complexity there that I have no desire in understanding. So when you first start, I say, you know, take on anything and then find a partner to work with. And if you decide it's not for you, then just refer it out.
How long would it take to get your like a new commercial agent to like really start getting their groove in commercial?
To
A
groove.
year, 2 years,
Okay, don't be offended, okay, Jennifer?
3 years.
Don't be offended here.
I will.
But I find a lot of agents, they're really just freaking lazy.
Hmm.
Okay. I mean, it's like, yeah, I do like 4 transactions a year and they're $1 million each, and I'm able to live comfortably on that. Commercial people tend to do fewer transactions that are bigger. And so they they do tend to not do as much because they get bigger paydays, right? And some are really super motivated even when they do have the big payday. And so I think it really depends on how much grit do you have and how dedicated are you to really understanding the craft and understanding the property types and everything that goes into it. Because there's some people, I mean, frankly, I know some agents who've been around the block for 20 years, and I wouldn't refer them to someone that I didn't like, much less someone I do like, you know what I mean? And there's other people, it's like, hey, this, you know, person, they just got into real estate, but with their background and expertise, they're already like running, and they've only been involved in this for, just a little bit because maybe they did facility management, for 20 years for a large multinational conglomerate or something, And so what's the average? I don't know that there is an average.
Depends on
If
the
you're
individual.
if you take a college kid,
Mhm.
that grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth, it's going to take them a while. Typically in business, we say that if you can survive the first 2 years, then you got a really good chance of surviving the first five. And if you survive the first five, you're probably going to be in there for the long haul.
Oh, good. I'll be retiring by then, so that's great.
Yeah. So we have got just a couple minutes left here in this conversation. So what did you find most valuable about what we talked about so far?
So I think learning to focus in on what type of education is really important. I think for me as a new commercial, I'm a newbie. I call myself a newbie, even though
Yeah.
I've been in real estate for a long time with my background. And then finding people who are knowledgeable is really important. I think as a takeout to make sure that I'm not swimming alone, making sure I'm representing properly, not just myself, but also a company that I'm representing and the client, because I want to make sure that I have good client relationships long terms. Then that sphere, I wouldn't have thought to look at for the sphere for commercial, but that's because I look at them for residential, but commercial opportunity, that's a really good advice.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't do is they don't leverage their sphere. And I don't know why, because I talk to residential agents all the time. It's like, you got 1,000 people in your sphere. Just go start talking to them. And when I was at a commercial brokerage and I was a mentor there, I'd tell my mentees, go talk to all the people you sold houses to. And we come back a week later, how many people did you talk to that you sold a house to? Well, let's change the subject, Chris. You know,
Mhm.
and it's like, whether is it fear? Is it laziness? Is it I've got other things I think are more important? I don't know. But leveraging your sphere is probably the most important thing you can do as a new agent, is picking up the phone, calling people you know, and making them aware of the fact that you're involved in commercial real estate. Okay. And hopefully, before you start picking up the phone, you form some associations with some experts that you know you can collaborate with, that you can team with. So when you're talking to them, and I think this is where the confidence factor comes in, where people are afraid, is you pick up the phone and say, "Hi, Sam, this is Jennifer, and I am so excited because I've been involved in commercial real estate with my family business. You know, I've sold you 3 homes, and you probably know some people that are involved in commercial real estate. And I'm doing that now, and I'm really excited about it because it's a lot of fun. It's different. I'm still going to be happy to help you buy and sell your next house or your kids' houses, whatever. But commercial real estate's very cool. And if you know anybody or yourself that's in the market to buy, lease, or sell commercial real estate, I'd love an opportunity to talk to them." Okay. And I've got this great team of people that I put together. So it's not just me by myself, but it's a group of us working together for your benefit, and I'm going to be the face of them. And you might meet a couple of them depending on the situation, but we're here to serve you.
I think that's the best piece of advice tonight. Call those friends and let them know, and get the with through obviously whichever brokerage you're with, get those connections and get those um the helping hands behind you is really good.
Yeah. So when I first decided to do commercial real estate, when the first thing I did is I started associating with other people in commercial real estate in a mastermind. Okay. And depending on the week, we would have maybe 5 people, sometimes 15 or 20 people show up in the mastermind, and we talk about different things. And then when I actually finished those first 5 transactions, I'm like, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I know stuff from being involved as a principal, but I don't know the agent side of it. I don't understand the lingo. I don't know a lot of stuff. So I started taking classes. I live in the Sacramento area, and I took classes over in the San Francisco Bay Area. And because of traffic, I would have to leave home by 5 o'clock in the morning to drive to the Bay Area to make sure that I made it to class on time. And then I would sit through a couple of classes, and then I drive back home again. But all that time when I was in the car was not wasted. I found some YouTube channels that had really interesting commercial content, and I would just get into a playlist and I would just hit play. And I usually do it at 1.25 or 1.5 speed. And while I'm driving, I'm listening to people talking about commercial real estate. And that really helped for saturating my being with getting the vocabulary and understanding what people were talking about, you know. So leverage that too. That's just another form of learning, and it's basically free, right?
Yes, it is definitely. So networking and what's your thought on podcasts? Because I have quite a few podcasts of people out there who say they're experts. So I kind of like to listen
You
to
know,
their.
I podcasts, YouTube videos, as long as they really do know what they're talking about. There's a lot of people out there that they they're maybe not as knowledgeable as they sound.
Mhm.
And that's part of growing up, right? It's
Right,
like you learn who are the right people to listen to and who are the wrong people to listen to.
right.
But
Okay.
you can always listen to this YouTube channel,
Yes.
and
Subscribe.
please subscribe, so that you see the future videos that are coming out, and look at the other videos that we've already done. I mean, we've done some great videos on like demystifying environmental hazards in commercial real estate. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but a lot of people just aren't aware of the environmental concerns and how you have to deal with them when you are buying and leasing and selling commercial real estate. So that's an important video to watch.
Definitely, definitely. Well,
Yeah.
Chris, this has been amazing. I really do appreciate having all of this input. A
Well,
lot to
thank
process
you so
through.
much for joining us. And I wish you the most success possible, both to you, Jennifer, for joining us today, and for everyone out there. If you have questions and stuff, put them down in the comments of the video. Love it when we get comments in our videos. You can send me messages if you have my email address. Oh, I left my cell phone number on the screen, so you can text me 24/7. I'm not going to reply 24/7, but you can text me 24/7 and I'll answer when it's appropriate. But if you do text me, please identify who you are. It's always fun getting a text from someone and they ask a question, they won't tell me who they are. I don't answer questions of people who I don't know who they are. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and stay tuned. We're doing a whole series on specific questions that people are asking about getting started in commercial real estate. So I'm really looking forward to the series and looking forward to all the questions that are coming in and creating videos about them. So thank you very much, everyone. Take care.